You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. You know we always appreciate it, and we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And you can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. More on that later. Plus, today's show, Iowa, they're ugly, but they win. What are you going to do, Hawkeyes fans? Plus, Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, they all hold serve. They're ready for some big games coming up around the schedule. Actually, we'll talk a little Caitlin Clark and women's basketball today as well. And, of course, our Big Ten Top 10 at the end of the podcast. Be sure to subscribe, that little black button down below, and follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way, you'll get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Iowa thinks ugly is beautiful. I think people are starting to get on board with it. Some. I know some of you are not. You'd like some more offense, but you are winning. And, but maybe it's time that Hawkeyes fans stop ripping Kirk Ferentz and offensive coordinator Brian Ferentz, maybe just throwing it out there as an olive branch, perhaps. I don't know. See what you think about that. But following Saturday's 15-6 win at Wisconsin, the Hawkeyes are now 6-1. 6-1, and they got the inside track to the West Division title and a place in the Big Ten championship game. 5 of the last 9 winners of this game have gone on to the Big Ten title game, and it just very well may be 6 of 10. Look, Iowa won this game with a touchdown, 2 field goals, and a safety. I mean, that is as Iowa football can get, and they get the W. I mean, it's almost becoming a meme of itself. Ride the wave. Enjoy it. Quit fighting it. It's what Iowa football is all about. The news isn't all good, despite a winnable remaining schedule against Minnesota, Northwestern, Rutgers, Illinois, Nebraska. The Hawkeyes may be running out of players on its way to the finish line here. Deacon Hill has struggled in replacing Cade McNamara. Tight end Luke Lachey has already been out, lost for the season. Now, Michigan transfer Eric All, also tight end, injured in this game Saturday. Some bright spots on offense suddenly appear to be the running game, which totaled 200 yards against the Badgers. In fact, in this game, pretty exciting performance. LaShawn Williams, 174 yards, ran for an 82-yard touchdown. Of course, last week, Caleb Johnson busted off a 67-yard run. So there's that. Maybe this is the new way for the Iowa Hawkeyes and their offense. And don't laugh when I say this, but they got the best punter in the country, and it matters. Tory Taylor, the guy is amazing. But, oh, by the way, here's a picture, if you're watching on YouTube, of the Heartland Trophy that they won by beating Wisconsin over the weekend. But Tory Taylor, I should say, punted 10 times for 51 yards. 51-yard average per kick. He had a couple of kicks over 60 yards of this game. He downed 6 kicks inside the 20-yard line. He's truly an amazing field flipper. Is what he is. He's a field flipper, and then go let the defense do their job. He's a big part. It's like a hinge in the door. Everything kind of holds on him, and he's doing a great job. And field position leads me to the next point, because Iowa's defense is absolutely stifling with players like Cooper DeJean and Sebastian Castro. They're tough to score on. Castro had an interception in this game, a couple of hard hits in this game as well. Wisconsin had a bunch of 3-and-outs in this game. And then as long as we're talking about Wisconsin, Tanner Mordecai ended the game in a sling. He appeared to damage his throwing hand late in the second half on a follow-through, hit the helmet of Jay Higgins, and then played another play. And then he's looking at the sideline, kind of hold his hand, says, "I can't throw." You literally could read his lips as he was yelling back at the sideline. They took him out of that ball game, and Braden Locke came in. Braylon Allen, he had to leave the game. The upper body injury. Wondered at the time, watching it live, was a concussion, was a shoulder, whatever. But he did come back in the game, so it wasn't concussion. And he was playing hurt the rest of the game. Now, keep in mind, Badgers fan, Ches Malusi's already gone. So the two-headed attack at running back was down to one, and Allen did a pretty monumental effort there in just playing in that football game. Took some hard hits later on as well. He did get over the 3,000-yard rushing mark, though, for his career. So anyway, see if he can get healthy, because they definitely will need them. Meanwhile, while we talk about Iowa and everything going on, we'd love to hear your comments, Hawkeye fans. You're all over the place and love this love-hate relationship you got with the Hawkeyes. Hit me up on Twitter at TalkBig10 and also here on YouTube. And don't forget our website, talkbig10.com. So elsewhere around the Big Ten, Penn State, they beat UMass as expected. It was UMass. What are you going to do? 63-0. That's about what we expected. And actually, that's a little better than we even expected. Drew Aller, 3 touchdown passes, ran for another in this game. 2 touchdown passes to Theo Johnson, and the defense had 7 sacks and 14 tackles for loss. It was men among boys in this game. Daquan Hardy returned 2 punts for touchdowns, had 129 yards on 3 returns. By the way, Hardy had never returned a punt in college football before, so that was pretty good. Penn State is now 6-0, 3-0 in the conference, and they got that big game coming up against the Ohio State Buckeyes on Saturday. Can't wait. We're going to be doing a lot on that this week, that's for sure. Speaking of Ohio State, they won at Purdue 41-7. Kyle McCord threw 3 touchdown passes. Dalen Harden made his season debut and rushed for 76 yards and a touchdown. Why? Well, all of a sudden, the Buckeyes, they're a little bit thin. Travion Henderson and Mayan Williams, they sat out with injuries. And then Chip Trayanum, he left the game in the first after a hit left him a little wobbly. So, and then Emeka Egbuka, he didn't play either. So all of a sudden, I'm starting to wonder, this is something we're going to have to dive into a little bit on this podcast throughout the week, with the health situation of the Buckeyes going into the Penn State game. I'll be very concerned. Buckeyes are 6-0, 3-0 in the Big Ten, though. And Ohio State, in case you haven't noticed, remember we were talking about them at the beginning of the season. They couldn't quite get their offense on track. Well, they have outscored their opponents 68-14 the last 3 halves of football, dating back to the Maryland game last week. So, and the Buckeyes defense has allowed just 58 points all season. So I know we spent a lot of time talking about Michigan scoring defense and Penn State scoring defense. The Buckeyes scoring defense is right there with them. But again, I think the health of the Buckeyes is the big question I would ask about right now going into this game against Penn State on Saturday. We'd love to hear your comments as well. I'm going to be doing a lot of research, talking to people, see what's going on there. Would he love to hear from you Buckeye fans and what you think about that going into Saturday? Again, at Twitter, at Talk Big Ten, or hear the comments on YouTube. All right, we've talked briefly about 2 of the big 3, the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Penn State Nittany Lions. The Michigan Wolverines are the other one in the big 3. Little bit of a slow start Saturday, but then they did in 3 quarters what most teams dream of doing in 4 quarters or 6 quarters or 8 quarters for that matter. They started clicking. So we'll talk about that. And Iowa women's basketball, Caitlin Clark back at it at an exhibition game, set a new record. Remember we were talking about Nebraska at the beginning of the season, and they had the outdoor volleyball game and set a record. Well, women's basketball at Iowa did something very similar as well. We're going to get all into all that in just 1 minute right here on Lockdown Big Ten. Game Time is super cool. Game Time is the way that you can get tickets to any event immediately. Sports, non-sports, comedy, theater, everything. Just download the Game Time app, and you can browse through the app and find all these upcoming events coming up. They've got last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, and the part that I like the best is you can get the view from the seat, from the ticket you're about to buy right there on your phone and check it out. See if you like it before you buy it. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after the event starts, which is key. I used to live in Los Angeles. Everybody shows up late. It's not because they're just laid back and cool. It's because traffic is horrible. So you can still get your tickets very late. So you can find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, everything you can think of. And with zone deals, you can pick the section and Game Time picks the seats for an average of 18% savings. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And I want to tell you about Prize Picks. They are the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. And it's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. It's really simple. Instead of battling thousands of other players, and some are pros and sharks out there, you're just playing against the numbers. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch your winnings just roll in. Here's an example. You pick a running back like Saquon Barkley or Josh Jacobs and pick them to run for more than 60 yards and pair that with a Patrick Mahomes that he'll throw 2 or more touchdowns. Package it all together, and you pick more or less. They're going to do more in the stats or less in the stats. And by the way, speaking of Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, more times than not, they're having trouble scoring more than 20 points. He's not an automatic to just throw up 3 or 4 touchdowns every day. Something you might want to consider. Less, right? So this is a lot of fun. You can impress your friends with your knowledge and impress your friends when the money starts rolling in. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. And again, that's go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. It's the daily fantasy sports made easy. So lots going on. Let's talk about Michigan now. We've talked about everybody else. Michigan rolled over Indiana 52-7. Indiana led this game 7-0. They sacked J.J. McCarthy 3 times in the first quarter, 4 times for the game. The Wolverines lost 8 yards on their first 2 possessions. But then they did what Michigan usually does. They scored on 8 of their next 9 possessions and just rolled. They totaled 52 unanswered points to improve to 7-0, 4-0 in the Big Ten, and they'll hold their number 2 spot in the rankings for yet another week. Michigan has won 19 straight Big Ten games, tying the school record from 1990 to 1992. They have scored 50 points 2 games in a row for the first time since 1975. They've scored 30 or more in a team record 10 straight games. And Michigan is the 3rd team since 2000 to start 7-0 while winning every game by at least 24 points. Ohio State did it in 2019. Stanford did it in 2011. That was the year after Harbaugh left there, by the way. So some additional things to consider about Michigan from this weekend. Again, true to form, J.J. McCarthy was not asked to do much statistically because Michigan just beat you so many different ways. And he was close to perfect, 14 of 17, 222 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Then he gave way to Jack Tuttle in the second half. And again, because of this pattern, he's kind of fallen behind on the Heisman numbers. So I don't know that he's going to be in the Heisman conversation, but they are winning football games. So that's what's important. Blake Corum only rushed. Same thing for him. I mean, he's not having to have a big load because everybody else is doing everything else. He rushed 13 times for 52 yards, scored a couple more touchdowns. By the way, he scored a touchdown at every single game this year. And he's over 3,000 yards for his career. So he got that benchmark. And Roman Wilson caught a touchdown pass for his league-leading 9th touchdown. He's J.J. McCarthy's favorite target. And good news for Michigan fans. Donovan Edwards, because Blake Corum is hogging all the touchdowns. Donovan Edwards finally got to score and get his first touchdown of the season. Penalties, I'm keeping track of this. I'm like the only one that does. So a couple weeks ago against Nebraska, Michigan had 0. Last week against Minnesota, they had 1. This week against Indiana, they had 2. That's it for the entire game. Actually, they're trending in the wrong direction. They're increasing. I'm just kidding. There's hardly any penalties. So congratulations to the Michigan Wolverines on all of that. Rutgers celebrated homecoming. Common guy ran for 148 yards and a go-ahead touchdown, a 21-yard touchdown, which capped they had an 18-point deficit. Came storming back in the fourth quarter, won the game. Nobody saw it. It was a blowout, and the weather was horrible, and everybody left to go celebrate homecoming. They stunned Michigan State 27-24. They had quite the celebration afterward. And get this, man. Rutgers is 5-2. They're 2-2 in the Big Ten. They got Indiana up next. Indiana's really struggling right now. Rutgers had 2 scores within 9 seconds of this game. Again, everybody missed it because they bolted. There were 52,000 fans there, but there weren't at the end. That's for sure. So congratulations to Greg Schiano. There may be a bright spot for the Michigan State Spartans in this one. They may have found a quarterback after all this. Caden Hauser started in place of Noah Kim and completed 18 of 29 passes for 133 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, rushed for 27 yards and a touchdown. And at one point, he did build up an 18-point lead before it disappeared. So, but maybe he'll be the starting quarterback moving forward. And Illinois, which has really struggled to find its footing, they win at Maryland, where Caleb Griffin kicked a 43-yard field goal on the last play of the game. They won 27-24. It was a nice break for Brett Bielema as they improved to 3-4. Luke Altmaier had a couple of touchdown passes in this one. And interesting sidebar, really, from Maryland, because they started out 5-0. They were starting to believe that they were in the upper echelon with the big 3. They lose to Ohio State. I think there's a little bit of a hangover. So they lose 2 games in a row after starting 5-0. I'm sure Coach Loxley and Talia are not happy about that. So they still got Penn State and Michigan around the corner on the schedule coming up. So that's what happened in a pretty exciting week around the Big Ten this weekend. Again, the big one this weekend coming up, Penn State, Ohio State, noon on Fox. That is going to be awesome. And also, we cap off the day, Michigan State at Michigan State. Everybody loves that one too. So some pretty big games coming up on the schedule that we're going to be all over right here on Locked On Big Ten. Also, did you catch the crossover at Kinnick? You know what I'm talking about? Sunday. Remember how Nebraska volleyball played volleyball at a sold-out Memorial Football Stadium, like 100,000 people were out there. They set a new record for a volleyball game. They did it outdoors. It was right at the beginning of this season. Well, the Iowa women's basketball team did the same thing. I got a picture of it here. I want to add here full screen if you watch it on video out of Kinnick Stadium. And it was pretty cool. They did it to raise some money for that nearby children's hospital and set a single game attendance record for women's basketball at 55,646. The old record was like 29,000. They crushed it. Absolutely crushed it. This is the star power of Caitlin Clark, who, by the way, had a triple-double, 34 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists. And Iowa won over DePaul 94-72. Again, it was a preseason exhibition game, but something that was very, very cool. And wanted to talk about it here on the podcast, in case you missed it on Sunday. A couple notes here. I want to thank you all for checking us out every day. You everydayers out there, I always appreciate it. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. The black button down below. Even check the bell if you want alerts. And if you subscribe and then share with a friend of yours that you know likes Big Ten, that would really help us out. And follow and like Locked On Big Ten. Plus, on Fridays on this channel and all the college Locked On channels, we've got our Locked On College Football Kickoff live show at 11 a.m. to noon. It's live. It's really cool. It's live. And if you miss it, it's on tape. You can always find it on these channels as well. So coming up, what we always like to do at this time of the week, at this juncture of the week, I always like to point out the top 10 observations from this weekend, the Big Ten top 10. It's all in 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. You know, Athletic Brewing Company has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. In fact, I have one right here. How about that? I'll put that right in front of the camera. Pretty nice. Tasty, too. Their award-winning brews beat out full-strength beers in global taste competitions. How about that? Athletic Brewing Company brews over 50 styles of craft, non-alcoholic beer. They got IPAs, golden, sours, whatever you like, they have it. And they always experiment with new stuff, too. They're fit for all times, whether you're watching a game, watching your kids' game. It's non-alcoholic, right? Working out, doing yard work, no hangovers. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you, or you can go online and check it out at athleticbrewing.com. That's athleticbrewing.com, all from the Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. All right, so my Big Ten top 10 from the weekend. I always like to give you my observations here. Let's do it. I'm going to put it on screen, and we'll just mention them from the bottom to the top. All right, keep it nice and simple here. Here we go, full screen for you watching on video. If you're on audio only, we'll discuss. At number 10, I've got Jalen Harrell from Michigan. Against Indiana, he had 2 sacks and 2 tackles for loss. I always like to throw in observations from defensive players. At number 9, Penn State, Adisa Isaac, 2.5 sacks and 3.5 tackles for loss. The Fighting Illini, Seth Coleman in there for 3 sacks and 3 tackles for loss at number 8. At number 7, the Michigan Wolverines scoring 50 points 2 weeks in a row. They haven't done that since 1975. Remember their first 4 games of the year? They were only scoring in the 30s and everybody was complaining. Then they busted out 40 and change against Minnesota. Now they've got 2 games in a row where they hit the 50 burger. Number 6, going to put Ohio State Marvin Harrison Jr. because he's always awesome. 6 catches, 105 yards, and a touchdown. And Iowa punter Tory Taylor at number 5. This is the first time we've ever put a punter or a kicker. No, a punter. I was going to say a kicker. We have done kickers, but we've never done a punter in the top 5 for his performance against Wisconsin. Truly a game changer. At number 4, Illinois. Speaking of kickers, Caleb Griffin, the 43-yard field goal to beat the Terps at the Horn. And then I've got all 3 Rutgers, top 3. I've never done this before. Rutgers, Desmond Igbinosun, 4 tackles for loss at number 3. At number 2, Rutgers, Kyle Monangai. I just like saying Monangai. That's a great name. 148 yards and a touchdown. And at number 1, Rutgers, just the fact that they erased an 18-point deficit to beat Michigan State. There is my Big Ten top 10 coming off the weekend. What do you think? Hit me up at Talk Big Ten on Twitter with the number 10. Find us on the website, talkbig10number10.com, or hit me up with a comment here on YouTube. Would absolutely love your feedback on all that as we motor on through the week. It's a big week. It's a big week. We've got a lot of big games coming up. And again, the interaction between you guys is very important. In fact, somebody gave me an idea. I was going through the comments over the weekend because I told you I do. I promise I do. And somebody said, hey, with Penn State and Ohio State and Michigan all being good and maybe they split with each other, how about going over some tiebreaker scenarios? I thought, you know what? That's worthy of it. That's a good idea. So an idea from a viewer, a listener, I'm going to turn it into a topic, and we're going to do a segment on that sometime very, very soon here on Locked On Big Ten. Be sure to subscribe, black button down below, and share with your friends as well. And you'll get us as soon as this episode becomes available each and every day. We release the audio versions super early in the morning, like I think 4 in the morning. And then the video comes out here on YouTube around 6 in the morning each day. And that's available to you for the rest of the day. But we get them out there ASAP. And I want you to be a part of the Locked On Big Ten family. Now I'm going to invite you to check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast for the latest on everything going on in sports. In the meantime, have yourself a great day and a great week. Keep checking in here because we're new every single day. Can't wait to see you next time. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.